Welcome back to episode 109 of the Hockey Cards Gongshow podcast. My name is Josh, and as always, I'm here with Troy. Now, Troy is recently back from a wonderful Alaskan cruise, and I didn't ask you before if you picked up a souvenir, but now I know you did. You
I
went
did.
on a boat, which are known to be a little bit of a petri dish
Yep.
of bacteria, and you came back with the plague. So, how's that treating you?
Came back with something. I don't know what it is. I have got the sweats, headache, achy body, all that fun stuff. Sore throat. I don't know. I'm getting through it. Taking some ibuprofen. I'll be good to go.
Hockey players play with broken bones, and hockey podcasters they go on when they're sick.
Yep.
So, good job toughing it out, Troy.
Yeah.
Well, we got a big show today, but just a couple announcements and news and notes before we get going. We got a gift the other day from our good friend Jay, who's better known as Top Shelf Cookie Sniper 88, which I think might be one of my favorite social media
Yes.
tags or names.
It is definitely up there. It is fantastic.
Now, people, you don't have to send us stuff. We
Yep.
say this all the time, and we mean it. Just listening and supporting what we were trying to build for the hockey hobby is more than enough. With that being said, though, Jay sent us a whole bunch of very cool inserts from Wild players that will go straight to our PCs. And then he also sent one of my favorite guys, a 1981 Topps Peter Stastny rookie PSA 8, which I absolutely love. It's a fantastic card, and I will keep that forever. So thank you very much, Jay. And we mentioned this before, but I want to throw another plug in for him that Jay has recently started a Hockey Cards podcast, the Top Shelf Cookie Sniper podcast, and he's working hard to be another great content source for the hockey hobby. So we would suggest that you guys go ahead and check that out. Next, Troy, we're going to do a little bit of a shameless request here, and it's just great that neither of us have shame. So pretty easy for us to do. So as you've probably noticed, we're working hard to build our YouTube presence, and it would be super nice and helpful if many of you or all of you that are listening would just head over to YouTube quick and subscribe to our Hockey Cards Gong Show YouTube channel. That would be a fantastic thing that you could do for us. And as a little incentive, Troy has graciously offered to fly to your house and weed your lawn for anyone that subscribes.
Don't
Nice
hold
of you,
me.
Troy.
Don't hold me to that. You'll have people writing in going, "All right, when you coming to weed my house?"
Yeah, just kidding about that. Not kidding about subscribe.
Yeah.
But just kidding about that.
Aren't we supposed to scream and be like, hit that like or the bell or and all that stuff? I can't remember what you're supposed to do, but
I think
if
we're the
you
furthest thing from YouTubers. Troy.
no kidding.
Want to make a quick mention for Gong Show partner Second String Leather Company. Well, it's over, Johnny. The Second String Leather Company clearance sale for their wallets made from NHL goalie equipment is now officially sold out. They're all gone. Pretty cool. They've been trying to clearance their wallets to get ready for the fall collection, which they've been teasing relentlessly. And I'm very, very excited about. But don't worry, you can still use the code GONGSHOW15 and save yourself 15% on anything else on their website. So they have leather watch bands that, again, are made from NHL goalie equipment. They have dog leashes, grilling utensils, knives that look like samurai swords that are made out of hockey stick shafts. Pretty cool. I'd also recommend, if you're not already, following Second String Leather Company on Instagram. When they do these teases, it's pretty awesome to see what products or players and goalies might be featured in their fall collection. And then lastly, before we get started, just a reminder that the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast is a Patreon podcast. That means we rely on support from listeners and watchers like yourself to help us cover our show expenses, continue to produce more and hopefully better hockey card content and fund initiatives, even in a small way, to grow the hobby. You can join our out of 199 support level tier. You get access to the Hockey Cards Gong Show Discord server, and you just support our show and help us out, which is really nice. It's super easy to do. You can go to our website, hockeycardsgongshow.com, and there's a become a patron link there. You could also go to the Patreon website at patreon.com and search for Hockey Cards Gong Show. There's a link in the show description or YouTube description of this episode, or in our Instagram and TikTok profiles. There's a link in our link tree there as well. We do have one new patron since our last show, Al S. Thank you very, very much for your support. We really appreciate it. Well, are we ready, Troy? Are we ready to get in the game plan here?
Yeah, you gotta do me a favor. Show my screen.
Okay.
I gotta show our little hockey Patreon now where they get the triple gold and the 199. Nice, fun, updated graphics. So I want everyone to see that. All right, here we go. On today's show, we begin with the greatest NHL player to wear number 9. Then we take a look at 5 common mistakes that hockey collectors make. And we say hockey collectors, but guess what? We've made them all too. Then it's off to hobby news, followed by our PWCC Weekly auction hockey cards preview. And we finish the show with new product releases. And Josh, it's back. Personal Pickups is back. It was been on hiatus for a little bit, but it's going to come back with a vengeance today. Mostly you, too.
Yeah.
All right, here we are. We are on episode 109. The greatest NHL player to wear number 9, per the Hockey Writers' greatest NHL player to wear each article number is, dun, da, 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 no questions about it, Gordie Howe.
Probably the biggest no-brainer other than 99, right?
Biggest no-brainer, but man, check this out. Check out the runners-up list. Maurice Rocket Richard, Bobby Hall, Mike Modano, and then Johnny Busak. So
That's
I guess
pretty good list.
Some pretty good players have worn number 9. I think it's the most loaded number that we've had on the show for sure that I remember looking at.
What an amazing picture of Gordie Howe too, if you're watching on YouTube.
Yeah, it took me a while to find this picture. I found it on, I can't remember, the Globe maybe had it. Oh yeah, it's the Globe. It was a fantastic shot because I was looking for a really nice action photo of him. All right, we got Gordie Howe, right winger, born in Floral, Saskatchewan, but grew up in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan. Howe signed his C form with the Detroit Red Wings in 1944, which gave the Red Wings his NHL rights. I learned all about a C form. I didn't know what they were.
Okay.
The Rangers originally wanted Howe to sign a C form with them when he was 15 years old, but Howe didn't feel it'd be a good fit and wanted to go back and continue playing hockey with his friends. I actually really appreciate that, seeing someone like his stature say, no, I just want to go play with my friends. I'm a little bit homesick. And he kind of admitted he just wanted to go play with his friends. So it's good to see.
What is a C form? Is it like a
contract? Yeah, it's basically what they call the contract that these players would sign to give the NHL team their rights. So that's all it really is. Because back in the Wild West, 15-year-olds could sign a C form. I don't think that flies right now.
Well, that's probably code for signing all your rights in life away.
Yeah, probably. Well, I don't get into it, but talk about underpaid. Gordie Howe was very underpaid during his career by the Red Wings. I don't get into this at all, but now I'm going to say stuff. I think Ted Lindsay realized how underpaid he was, and it was kind of the impetus to start the Players Association.
Yep.
So if I remember that right. All right. Howe has played in 1,767 regular season games over a 26-season NHL career. Howe played 25 seasons in the NHL with the Detroit Red Wings. He finished his career with 1 season with the Hartford Whalers. However, between his time with Detroit and Hartford, he did play 6 seasons in the WHA, where he was able to play with his sons, Mark and Marty.
That's
so cool. When I read all this stuff out, it's going to be NHL accomplishments. But if you added in his WHA stuff, his numbers obviously are a little more. So his awards and accomplishment: Hall of Famer, obviously, 4-time Stanley Cup winner, 6-time Hart Trophy winner, 6-time Art Ross Trophy winner, 12-time NHL First All-Star Team selection, 9-time NHL Second All-Star Team selection, 23-time NHL All-Star Game selection, named to the NHL's top 100 players list. For his career, Howe had 801 goals, 1,049 assists for 1,850 points. He made the playoffs in 20 of his 26 NHL seasons, compiling 68 goals, 92 assists for 160 points and 157 NHL playoff games played. So Howe is definitely one of the greatest players to ever play in the NHL. There's no doubt about it. We've went in depth on Howe a lot. We did a lot on him on the Mount Rushmore. So just give you some more stats. Over the course of his NHL career, he had 21 straight seasons of 60-plus points. In addition, he had 22 straight seasons of scoring 23 goals or more. He also had 14 seasons of 30-plus goals while playing in the NHL.
I can't remember exactly how many games they played in the 50s and 60s, but it was not 82 either.
No, it wasn't 82. I want to say it was in the 70s somewhere, if I remember. I better not say. I'll be off, but yeah, it definitely wasn't 82. And at one point, they played 84. I think in the 90ish before a new agreement, or 80ish, they played a lot more. Best season of Howe's NHL career from a points standpoint was a 68-69 season, where Howe had 44 goals, 59 assists for 103 points in 76 games played. And he was 40 years old. Jeez. I did not know that. I didn't know his best season in the NHL from a point standpoint. He was 40 years old. That is pretty crazy. Now, we could have a whole show, like I said, on Gordie Howe. We're not going to do that. Again, we've done deep dives on previous episodes. He's a legendary player. But at this time, when I researched him, the one thing I actually really liked is the more I researched him was basically just how good of a person he seems to be. And he had a lot of stories that I read about self-deprecating with his humor. He always had time for fans, signed autographs, did a bunch of charity work. And I know he did a ton of charity work after his wife died with Alzheimer's associations and stuff like that. Besides the obvious hockey stuff, and his accomplishments are legendary, Howe was known for his scoring prowess, physical strength, career longevity. In fact, he is the only NHL player to have completed in 5 different decades. Now,
that'll never be done again.
Well, check this one out. In fact, he also played a shift in a 1997 game for the Detroit Vipers of the IHL, which made it he played professional hockey in 6 decades.
Oh my gosh.
That's crazy. Yeah, I don't think 5 decades is happening again. Maybe it will. Like we said, Gretzky's goal mark would never be approached, and now Ovechkin's doing it. Who knows? But agree. I think it's going to be a very hard one to get. And then finally, we all know about the Gordie Howe hat trick, a goal, an assist, and a fight in the same game. However, Howe only did this twice in his NHL career. Do you know who the current leader is in the Gordie Howe hat trick? I had to look it up.
I just read it. So.
Okay. Rick Tocchet with 18. Congratulations, Rick Tocchet. He's not in the league anymore, so I guess someone's got to go beat him with that. All right.
I was going to ask you if Howe was a big fighter.
So the Gordie Howe hat trick, I was reading a lot about it. He got in a fight early in his career, and it might have been his first season with, I don't remember the name, but it was maybe the Rangers or the Maple Leafs, one of their big sluggers who was feared in the league, and Howe just dropped him. Oh. And so that became like kind of his leg, or his, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like legacy, is that he was a fighter, but he could fight. He was definitely physical. A lot of stories about, I think it was one of the Richards said, Howe could come up behind you, put his stick between where your armpit is, and kind of lift you off the ice if he wanted to. I mean, I guess he was just strong as an ox. All right, fun, interesting facts. Nickname was Mr. Hockey. Wore number 17 as a rookie. However, when Roy, I don't know how to say his last name, Conacher, I think it is. Conacher joined the Chicago Blackhawks after the 46-47 season, Howe was offered number 9. Although Howe had not requested the change, Howe accepted it when he was informed that being number 9 would entitle him to a lower Pullman berth on road trips. I think Pullmans are either trains or buses. I can't remember, but I'm guessing he got a better sleeping spot. So he took it. I love that.
Wow.
Howe finished in the top 5 for NHL scoring in 20 consecutive seasons. Howe had 1,685 career penalty minutes, which equates to 28 full games he spent in the penalty box. I saw a quote from Howe about his physical play, and he goes, "I play religious hockey. It's better to give than to receive." So that cracked me up. If you think about that, 28 full games, just think if he wasn't in the box all the time, how many more points he'd have. And you could say that for a lot of players.
Yeah.
He retired from the NHL at 52 years old, which, like you said, is crazy and probably won't happen again. Second to last fun fact, Howe was ambidextrous and was one of the few players who could use a straight blade stick and shoot left or right-handed. Final fun fact. In the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, character Cameron Fry wears a Gordie Howe jersey most of the film. The fun fact is this jersey was personally provided by Gordie Howe.
That is amazing. I never knew that.
Yeah, I found a research in this. I love it. All right. The Gordie Howe rookie card We talk about this a lot. 5152 Parkhurst, number 66. Gordon Howe. For some reason, I forgot that it had his real name is Gordon, Gordon. Obviously, the PSA slab looks like it has Gordy. This card obviously goes for pretty big money. The record, looking it up, is for a PSA 8.5 that's sold at Golden on May 24th of 2021 for $205,000 US dollars. And I believe that's the picture I'm showing you right now. A PSA 5 copy sold at PWCC on May 12th of this year for $19,500. And in fact, as Josh mentioned last week, that Slab Sharks, one of our sponsors, has a PSA 3 copy available in its current auction that I believe ends today, the day this episode airs, Thursday. And the card is currently at a bid of 4,600 Canadian, which if I convert that is around 3,405 US dollars. I believe it will probably go for more than that. But just to give a little price variation on the different PSA grades for that card. Again, awesome player. I love doing more research on him, and I found different things that I know we probably haven't talked about on the show, but definitely warrants the greatest player to wear number 9.
I think that card is one both of us really desperately want to have in our collection someday. That would be, I would stare at that for a long time.
I don't care if it's a 1. Someday I want to get it.
I wonder too, like, how the NHL can, part of me thinks that they have a responsibility almost to carry on the legacy of players like him.
Yeah.
Like, does your son know anything about Gordie Howe? So your son's what, 13 years old, hockey player.
I mean, he knows he was a great player. That's about it.
I just kind of wonder, like, how the league and, maybe doing stuff like this in our own little weird, teeny way helps to do that. But to me, that just feels important right now that we really carry on the legacy of these guys that really built the game.
Yeah.
You listen to Wayne Gretzky talk, and he's very effusive about how much he loved Gordie Howe and how big of a role model Gordie was. And I think he got to meet him or something like that when he was really young. And then the other thing that stood out to me in your fun facts, when you mentioned that his nickname is Mr. Hockey, I remember, boy, this must have been a dozen or more shows, a few dozen shows ago. I spent, I think, almost 2 hours trying to find the root of how he got that nickname and could not find anything. That's something that's always kind of bugged me. It seems like it would be very readily available, that type of information, but it's really not.
Yeah, so far, if our listeners knows, please let us know. I was going to say, too, when you're talking about the legacy, the reason so many great players wear number 9 is because of him. Like, they all knew who he was, and a lot of players wear number 9 because of Gordie Howe. And then second, I really wish to do the legacy thing. I wish the NHL would go back to named divisions, not East, West, whatever they are, and put them back to names. And maybe you have like a Gordie Howe division or a Gordie Howe conference. Like we had Campbell Conference and all that. And then they decided to do just the generic stuff, which I wish they would change that back.
Like the winner of Gordie Howe division plays the winner of the Danny Heatley division.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
In the first round of playoffs.
There you go.
All right, great job, Troy. You made it.
I did.
Probably the
I only coughed once.
I
only coughed once during it.
Your big segment. You made it through with the plague. So good job there. Well, we're going to transition now to kind of our marquee segment of today's show, and that's 5 common mistakes hockey collectors make, and which are 5 common mistakes Troy and Josh make all the time. But we put a lot of thought into this, and as you guys will see later, reached out to a bunch of collectors, got their opinions on this topic as well, and just feel like it's a useful endeavor. Again, here we are in the off season to maybe try to cover some of this ground. And we're not doing it to shame anyone, I guess, maybe other than ourselves, Troy.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important topic that could help a person or two avoid some of the often pitfalls that can exist in the hobby. And to me, why that's important is if there's a collector or two that can avoid one of these mistakes or pitfalls, maybe they'll end up enjoying their experience in the hobby more, and it may increases the chance that they stick with it.
Yep.
Because we've all had those moments, I think, where something just went bad, whether it was through a mistake we made, I guess, or not. And it's like it makes you question, what are you doing
Yeah.
in this hobby? And so I guess if even one person this could impact in a positive way, I would feel really, really good about that. All right, Trey, you ready to go into our top 5 common mistakes hockey
I'm ready.
collectors make?
I'm ready.
Mistake number 1 is a big one, and I've called it buy first, think later, which is another word for impulsivity. I'm not sure if I'll ever be cured of this disease, Trey. You have the plague from the cruise.
Yes.
I have this disease uh, pretty bad. And I'll just point again to my own personal experience and the Sidney Crosby orange highlighter from
Yep.
2022-23 Series 2 that I bought on release day. I was very excited. It was a total impulse move, made 0 sense, but of course I did it anyways. Now, why did I do it? Well, because we're coming off Series 1 and they had this very successful new insert population count that everyone is excited about. And here you have highlighters. I think I'm outthinking the hobby here, right? It's acetate, it's colored acetate, it's going to be huge. I got to jump on this right away and snatch it up. Never mind, Troy. It's still the most ever paid what I paid for the Sidney Crosby for any highlighters card. And here's
Oh,
like
it's
the
Eddie?
kicker.
Oh,
Oh,
I didn't know
any.
that. I
It's
didn't know
the
that.
if you do like a card ladder sales history search for highlighters, and yeah, it's I believe the most paid for anyone. I paid like $90 for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, yes, $90 is a lot of money, but at least it wasn't, 4
9,000.
figures or 5 figures, something crazy.
But here's like the funniest thing about this. It's the orange highlighter. So it's not even there's still it's not even the most rare. There's a
Yeah.
green and a pink, I believe. I've stopped thinking about this card because of my shame and embarrassment at
Mhm.
myself. And so yeah, you could that just adds on to how dumb of a decision was. And then to top it off, I don't even really collect Crosby. So I can't if you ask me, well, why did you choose Crosby? I think because it was there and I can hit
Yeah.
buy now. So again, it's just an example from my experience of the perfect case of buy first, think later, because it did not take long for me to realize, oh my gosh, what did I do? Do you have any experience that is similar to this?
I don't remember, I mean, not really. I don't remember buying things right away. I mean, I've paid way too much for cards. We know that. We talk
Yeah.
about that all the time. But I'm pretty good about not just buying it right away, even if it's a player I like. I usually give it a little time. So
Yeah.
nothing that comes out to my head. I'm sure I've done it. Don't get me wrong. But
Mhm. Would it be way out of bounds to say that a lot of the hobby is actually built on impulsivity? I mean, if you
oh
think
yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
that I think it drives a lot of sales. And so this is the pot calling the kettle black here. But if I were to give anyone any advice, I would give myself first. But then the advice that I probably give my kids is so when my kids come and they want to buy like an Xbox or spend a whole bunch of their money on something, our standard rule of thumb is buy it tomorrow,
Yeah.
right? The whole sleep on it. If it's meant to be, it'll be there tomorrow. And then you let that kind of endorphin rush wear off. And if you still really want it tomorrow, then it's probably a purchase that you'll be happy with. So that's something I try to do. I'm obviously not always successful. I think other ideas are to set a budget so that you
Yep.
don't get into impulsivity and try to think about the long run as opposed again to immediate gratification. Like what's going to make me happiest a month or two from now versus what satisfies that urge to whether it be open a box or just get a new card today to because you haven't had that mail day rush in a long time. You have any other thoughts on sort of
You know what?
buy
Yeah.
first, think later?
I'm thinking about this, and there actually has been times. There's been some Pekkas I bought too soon, like too quick, and then I realized when I got the card that I didn't even really look at the picture. And even though I liked the player and the card, it wasn't that great. There's a seismic gold I actually bought a long time ago that was horribly off center, like 90-10, something ridiculous. And I got that card. And I was like, oh my gosh. But I was so excited to see it that I bought it. So I've definitely hit this one. You talk about impulsivity too. I think about our Young Guns discussion and what we talk about, right away, and that urge to get in. So I think that kind of plays into that as well.
And I don't think this is something that most people will ever completely cure themselves. To
Yeah.
me, and as I think about myself, it's more about keeping it in check,
Yeah.
right? There's going to be times where I'm just like, screw it, I want a box of cards
Well, what if it's a
today.
101 or out of 5? It's
Yeah.
something that, say
Yeah.
it's a buy it now and it's a 101 or out of 5. You're probably, if it's Pekka Rene, I'm probably going for it. Obviously, the price has to
Sure.
be somewhat reasonable, but I'll probably overpay.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna move on to number 2. And that's no plan or goal for your collection. This is one, Troy, that I feel like I've struggled with for a long time. In some ways, I guess I've been jealous of people like you that have kind of a very defined sort of collecting way that you go about it. You like Pekka Rinne, you're a big Mike Bossy fan, Helly Lindbergh, you like wild players. You've got your what's Kent Herbeck, right, on the
Yeah, for
baseball
baseball.
side.
Yeah.
And I just feel like I've been all over the board. And it's kind of funny too. Like we'll hear from listeners that will be like, "Oh, I saw this Pekka Rinne. I immediately knew Troy would love." And Josh, I have no idea what you like. And I kind of, it's like, well, yeah, join the club. I don't know if I do either. And so for a long time, I kind of feel like I've been somewhat rudderless in the direction that I want to take in collecting. And other guys too. It's not just you. It's like you got a guy like Frank Porco who's got,
Yep.
go to Frank's Instagram and you'll see the most amazing collection of 90s hockey inserts you'll ever see in your entire life. And it's just, it kind of fits in a box and it's very easy to define what Frank does. And I guess personally, Troy, I just feel like there's so many cards that I like. And again, I'm just all over the place. And so as I try to be somewhat introspective about this, I can see how it's kind of led me to meandering through the hobby. And I think I've got to the point where if you can ask yourself, do you really like your collection? And I don't know if I can answer that honestly and say, yeah, this is exactly the collection I want. I just
Yeah.
kind of have followed whatever the way the wind has blown my sails at that given moment. So I've really personally tried to focus on that over the past few months and try to figure out, well, what is it that I really like other than everything, which kind of is more the modus operandi that I've used. And so here, I think I have a little bit of direction. And my current thought is, and again, it has to like fit your own personality,
Hmm.
but I want to have like 20 PC cards that I love. I don't want to have a super huge collection. I don't need to have like 600 awesome cards. I want to have 20 cards that I can, have a little case and be really proud of and say, this is my collection of awesome hockey cards. And I think for me, doing it that way kind of leans into how eclectic I tend to be, right? I could have like a Peter Stastny PSA 10
Yep.
and then like a Ovechkin Glow Peachy, and it would just fit together. It's like and then
Yep.
I can work to constantly upgrade that 20 cards. But I also think like limiting myself to would help because I tend to just want to, like a lot of people or of us in this hobby, is just keep collecting more and more and more. And it's like, let's trade up. Let's take some of these
Yep.
10 cards that I'm like, about and try to get better cards. And so again, I share this own experience and we'll get yours in a second too, just as a way to say that I think others probably to some degree might struggle with this too. Not everybody, of course, but it's really hard when you don't have a direction. And I think you end up
Yep.
making mistakes in your collecting. And like I said, I think you can do this for a couple of years and then look at your collection and be like, man, this should be so much better than it
Hmm.
is. I don't know. Does this resonate with you or does it make sense to you?
Definitely makes sense to me. And I don't know if it falls into this, but I'm going to say something that I was thinking about when you actually started talking about this. I think definitely I have a defined lane. I know who I like for players, but I think about my box buying, and do I have a plan for when I buy boxes? Not really. I just like to rip stuff open. But you know what that's led to? A lot of cards I don't want. And they're just sitting in boxes. And maybe that's part of my not having a good plan for that. Maybe I need to cut back of that, think about that a little bit more. But that's definitely one area where I probably need to take a step back and think about it, what I want to do with when I buy boxes or what boxes I buy. Because
When
I
there's
love
the
ripping
whole
boxes.
Yeah, there's the whole money thing, and I like
Yeah.
ripping boxes too, but if you look at the money we've spent on boxes over the
Oh
last
yeah.
2 years, and we look at, like, we can be on talking about Gordie Howe and saying, "Oh, I would love to have a Gordie Howe someday, but I can't
Yeah.
afford one." I bet we could have a very nice Gordie Howe
Yeah.
right now. But again, we like opening boxes too, and that's
Yeah.
part of our experience, so I'm not, like, trying to poo-poo that, but maybe there would be, if we really both of us really kind of planned it out a little bit better, that we
Yep.
could be more balanced and we could
Yep.
end up with some vintage cards or other like really cool inserts or PC cards that we might appreciate more than the no name rookies
Yep.
that we've pulled out of a lot of boxes. So, okay, we'll move on to the next one. Putting too much stock and money into potential. We all get swept up into these young prospects. And I just wonder if you guys all can relate with this when a flagship release comes out and you think to yourself, "Wow, there's like 6 or 7 really great rookies
Yep.
in this release," because I sure have. But what we know though is very few players, maybe one in an entire year, will ever make it to like elite hobby status.
Yep.
So as good on release day as we think this crop of rookies are, well, think about it, right? There's 4 elite players in the hobby. There's Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid, and Matthews. And that's, we'll go into about 2005. That's 18 years, right? And so you think of guys that, and a lot of these I'm really excited about too: Jack Hughes, Kaprizov, Jason Robertson, Tage Thompson, Cole Caulfield, Matty Beniers, Trevor Zegras, Elias Pettersson, Connor Bedard, Timmy Stutzla, Adam Fantilli, just to name a few. We'll be lucky if any of these guys make it to
Yep.
that top tier, or even 2 or 3 being in that next tier down. So they were talking like Makar, McKinnon, Draisaitl, right? And so I think and the problem with this too is that the rookie chase is part of what makes the hobby
Yep.
fun.
Yep.
If it was just Wayne Gretzky cards, I think we would get bored pretty quick. And so I guess the key here again goes back to like most things in life, right? Balance
Yep.
and moderation. And I think at times we get too swept up in these young prospects and we fail to realize that at the end of the day, and we kind of take it like everyone like, oh, if I just buy a whole bunch of Jack Hughes cards for $100, I'm gonna have $110,000 cards 6 years from now. And that rarely, if ever, works out. Sure, there's examples, there's
Yes.
outliers,
Yep.
but yeah.
Well, it's
Thoughts?
probably yeah. This probably led me to my Kaprizov purchase. I mean, yes, I liked him. Yes, he was a wild player, but I probably put a little too much in stock into his potential when I bought my PSA 10 copy. So
Well,
that's
in your
that's
defense, though, that was a purchase with the heart because we had been
yeah.
waiting for a superstar caliber player for the Minnesota Wild for 20 years.
Yep.
And we were just very excited that it happened.
Yeah, and
But
again, I've never went all in on a player where I bought hundreds of cards, but I'll tell you what, there's a reason I have a 2 or 3 5,000 count boxes, and I won't throw away any or get rid of any young gun because you just never know. But yeah, when you go all in and go in big time, sometimes it does. Sometimes it works, obviously, like you said, but a lot of times it won't. And it's really hard to become elite in this hobby. And I think this is one that when we asked listeners to give us some examples, I think this one showed up a couple times.
yeah.
So it's not like we're the only ones that thought this. This is a pretty big deal.
When I've been trying to apply this balance a little bit, and in one of my personal pickups, we'll kind of stick a pin in this particular mistake and kind of reference it more at the end of the show. And,
Yeah.
it's one example of, I guess, how I've tried to not focus so much on these young prospects that are exciting and do have a lot of potential. And hey, I get excited about too.
Yeah.
So the next one, Troy, is not really understanding what you're buying. I've done this one a lot, and to me, it's maybe the toughest one because how do you know what you don't know?
Yep.
And so sometimes these mistakes are unavoidable. I'll give some examples, right? We've been talking a lot lately about the concept of what I guess I'll call false scarcity a little
Yep.
bit, which to me is a perfect, again, a perfect example of not understanding what you're buying. And so here's what I mean by false scarcity. So let's say you open up a hobby box. I'm not even going to name the product, or you're on eBay searching for singles and you see an Austin Matthews parallel from a set that's numbered out of 99.
Yep.
So what our brains kind of trick us and we're trained to say is, wow, out of 99, there's only 99 of these. This is rare. This is exciting. I might need to have this. And sure, while that card only has a print run out of 99, but what our brains fail to remind us so often is that within even that own set, there could be 4 or 5 different subsets of
Yep.
Austin Matthews that are numbered out of 99. And then there's also a 199 and a 299 and a 49 and a 10 out of 10 and then maybe a 101. And then you have to think of, well, I don't know how many sets there are in a year. What is it, like 20, 30, 25, something
Yeah,
like
it's
that?
like 25-ish, give or take, if you want to throw in
Okay.
the Leafs and everything.
All 25 sets kind of do this too.
Yep.
So now you can take, if there's 4 or 5 cards within a given set out of 99, there might be upwards of, what would that be? Well, 100 within a year. And then you think, well, Austin Matthews, this is his 7th year. And, take out his rookie year for a minute. And there can just be a lot of cards that make you feel like they're scarce, but in reality, they're really not. And then
Yep.
two, it's not just like out of 99. Think of all the 101s there
Yep.
are now for
Yep.
when and this is how my brain works, and I'm curious if yours does too. You see a 101 and you think that it's like this magical treasure that I only exist in this one copy, but it's probably, if it's like Trevor Zegras from 2021 sets, how many do you think he has? 100 101s? Would that be ridiculous to say? Or
Well, that's
could
a good
he at least?
question. I mean, we could look it up, but yeah, I don't know if it's 100, but there's a lot. Like, remember when I pulled that Yossi? That was a big learn. Like, I pulled a Yossi 101, but then you start looking, and I'm like, oh well, okay. There's a lot of other 101s. This isn't that
Sure.
valuable of a card.
And this, again, this is just one example, but it illustrates how the longer you're in the hobby, the more you learn, the more experience you gain, the more you understand, is you start to understand what cards are truly scarce, what
Hmm.
cards have truly value. I was on the Jeremy show and we were talking about the Gretzky Atomic Refractor from Bowman's 1998 Bowman's Best. That's one of the, most people consider one of the top cards,
Yep.
hockey cards in the 90s. And that's like what I called like a showstopper card, where if
Yep.
you're at a card show and you set that down, they're going to go, whoa, that is cool, right? It's all the attention and focus is going to go right to that card. And so to me, as I've kind of continued to try to learn about this hobby, it's like those are the kind of cards that I'm really trying to focus on and really understand when I'm buying a card. Because when we first started, I fell for that all the time. I'd be on eBay and I'm like, oh, this is a Kaprizov numbered out of 199 that I can
Hmm.
afford. I have to get it. But now I'm trying to be a little bit more discerning and say, is this really all that scarce? Is this
Hmm.
really a card that I could take it to any card show and guarantee that I would be able to sell it? So, and again, one example, a couple other examples, like a big theme of our later on in our show is going to be, before you buy a box of cards, understand the checklist.
Yep.
I bet there's a lot of people right now that if they understood what was happening in the checklist with some boxes that they've bought in the past week or two, might not have made that purchase
Hmm.
because we don't take the time to do the research necessary or understand what we're buying. And Troy, before I get your input, my best advice is to just take that extra 15 minutes, look up the checklist on Cardboard Connection or Beckett or TCDB, whatever your favorite site is. understand what's in that set. When you are looking at a single, go to that checklist as well. See how many that year, how rare it was to have a numbered parallel. And
Hmm.
then I think when in doubt, ask advice of other people in the hobby and try to find somebody that has more experience than you that can help guide you and lead you in the right direction. And we've used this off-cited example, but when I get to the point where I buy my Gretzky rookie, you know for a fact I'm talking to Jeremy Lee
Yeah.
about it because infinitely he knows way more than I do, and I want to understand what I'm buying in that. So, how does this one resonate with you?
This resonates big time with me, and I'll say we've talked about it before on the show, but when we start getting back into it, I think about Allure and how much Allure I bought. And I loved it because there's all these different parallels. I thought it was really cool. And then I started kind of looking at it more and researching, and I'm like, this probably wasn't the best thing for me to start buying right away. So I think Allure to me, 2020, 21 Allure was a big kind of wake up call. And I have way too many Jake Ottinger cards from that set. Probably 50 of them. It's pretty great. Now, Andre PC, but I probably have more than I should. A lot of duplicates and stuff like that. But yeah, this one definitely resonates to me. Like you said later in the show, when we talk about the checklist, we're going to get a good example of not checking the checklist and seeing stuff that happens when you don't do that.
Yeah. And then the last one is a big one that we've talked about a lot, but you can't do a segment like this without mentioning it. It's buying and selling at the wrong times. It's super tough when a player pops off, Troy, not to jump
Yep.
on the bandwagon.
Yep.
I feel the temptation when it's a Tage Thompson bonanza
Yep.
and you see him play against the Wild and he's like feels like he's 6'11" and powering through the whole team and scores 4 goals. It's like, oh my God, this guy's amazing. I want all of his good cards. That's what happens in my brain. And I've been just as excited about Matthew Kachuk, Jason Robertson. I've got my current obsessions, of course, too. But the big issue, of course, is when you buy at the peak, that's not a good recipe to build value into your collection. It's like buying real estate.
Yep.
You don't want to buy at the top of the market. You want to buy a good property. You want to buy a good player, a good card at when a time when the market is soft. Because when the market goes back up, that's how you build the value into your collection. Like I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, but go look at Matthew Kachuk cards right now. They're kind of back down to I wouldn't say where they were before he popped off early or middle, or I guess middle of the season slash in the playoffs,
Hmm.
but they're down quite a bit. And, he hasn't gotten any worse since he was amazing in the playoffs. It's just that newness factor, that hype, that excitement of their playoff run and how big of a role he played has worn off by now. And yeah, the cards are down. And I would say, too, I also find, and I'm not sure if you feel this way as well, Troy, but it's not as exciting to buy like a Matthew Kachuk card today
Yeah.
in the middle of August as it is when he is on the verge of, maybe, I don't know, will he score 100 points for 3 straight years?
Yeah.
Right? When it feels like a lock, it's like then you want to get in. So you almost have to overcome sort of your emotions or what your body is or what your brain is telling you is like, oh, this is, you just don't get that same endorphin rush, I
Yep.
guess is what I'm saying. And then we talked, of course, of this concept a ton in our last show when we tried to cover and plot out the life cycle of a Young Guns. So series 1 is going to come out in the beginning of November. And there's going to be some good rookies. It's going to be a new set configuration. I'm excited about it today. It's going to be hard to not invest really into those cards. But what we know time and time again is whether it's Luke Hughes or Devin Levi or who's going to be or Matthew Nyes or whoever is going to be the big Series 1 Young Guns, there's going to be people that spend $200 for a raw defenseman, Luke Hughes Young Guns, I'm sure, in those first couple days. And there's no way that that card is $200 6 months later.
Yeah.
Raw. It's just not possible. And then of course you got the whole Bedard thing, right? Where
Yeah.
people are going to go completely insane. They're going to pretend like when they see that auction with 40 minutes left on eBay the first week of the Series 2 release, that it's the only Connor Bedard Young Guns in existence, right?
Yep.
So you got to learn like when to buy. And like I said, unfortunately, the best time to buy is when it's the least satisfying
Yep.
in some ways. And then the selling side, you got to be just as smart as well, right? We talk about this all the time. Don't end your auction at 4:25 in the morning on a Tuesday.
Yep.
It's not a great time. Right now is probably not the best time to sell your cards, just being honest, especially kind of current guys. Like if I'm holding Cole Caulfield or J Rob or Timmy Stutzla or Kaprizov or any of these guys, I want to sell the week before the season, not in the middle of August when hockey, even though it's not that far away, it seems like it's never coming back.
Yep.
You have any other notes on timing?
So timing, I would say too, you have to be pretty cognizant of what's going on in the league. I know most collectors probably are, but I will say I found myself every night checking scores, stat lines, and all that to see what was going on in all the games around the league, not just the Wild, but all the games. So you have to be pretty in tune with what's going on around the league too, if you're going to think about selling at the right time during the season.
Yeah. So those are our 5 kind of what we think are, if not some of the most common mistakes that collectors make. And as part of this topic, we asked both our patrons in the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server and then followers on Instagram what you guys think are the most common mistakes collectors makes, and we got a ton of good responses, like
Yeah.
a ton of responses. So that was awesome to see, and definitely thank you to everyone who sent them in. I don't want to name names because we didn't tell people that we were going to name drop on the
Yeah.
show, and especially with Instagram stories, you can kind of respond anonymously. So no slight intended if we didn't mention your name. We just don't want to say a name and then have somebody be like, I didn't want you to tell everybody who said that. So I'm going to start with our Discord. This is some of the feedback that we got when we asked, what are some of the most common mistakes hockey card collectors make? So buying rookies right after release or buying big cards after a player wins a cup or an award. The first is The first one is more easily avoidable, but the second I think is harder for anyone. Only natural to be interested and excited when a player and our team wins and you want to commemorate it. We talked about this and totally understand,
Yep.
and I get swept up in all the excitement like everybody else. Somebody else said buying boxes rather than singles if you're chasing a card. If you want that card, just buy it. Don't waste your money cracking wax. The story of you pack pulling something could be great, but isn't worth the potential hundreds or thousands of dollars for that story.
I
You know
probably
what I
fall into this one. I probably fall into this one a little bit because in the back of my head, I always think, oh, maybe I'll pull whatever this Pekka Rene auto, even though I should. I just go buy it. Lot cheaper to buy the thing on eBay or something than to pull it in a box.
Well, I know that like people will equate breaking to gambling. To me, well, anything you buy, wondering if it'll go up or that could go up or down is a little bit gambling, but kind of buying boxes is a little bit the same. And I don't mean that in like a super bad way because I love ripping wax and so do you. We get very excited about it, but you almost have to have the expectation that there's just as good of a chance you're going to get creamed, like you'll find out we did later on in the show too, as you are going to hit that big card. I mean, that's just part of what you sign up for when you
I
buy boxes of cards.
Yep, I think of it, and I think about this with gambling too. It's basically a cost of entertainment. Is how you
Yeah,
kind of have to look at it.
I agree. Okay, then we asked on Instagram and we got tons of responses. We got
Yep.
so many. I got to go through kind of quickly, but um, you just jump in, Troy, when if there's anything you want to comment on.
Yep.
So bidding up low to midterm or low bidding up low to mid random rookies expecting breakouts, right? So prospecting, speculating, trying to buy guys that you think nobody values now, but by the end of the year could be worth 20x. Because, and I think the problem with this one is it happens at least to one or two guys every year,
Yep.
and so the natural tendency is want to apply that kind of lottery fantasy to every other rookie. Then there's following the herd, which, yeah, I think we're all guilty of. Buying endless boxes, break spots instead of the singles you actually want. Quote unquote, investing in young guns. Spending money on breaks, and this person says, my bad habit.
Yep.
FOMO buying. And then another one very related to that, buying due to FOMO instead of using patience. So do you think that FOMO, the fear of missing out, is a big factor, Troy?
I think it's a huge factor with a lot of people.
Mhm. Yeah, you don't want to be the only one without the Bedard Young Guns PSA 10,
Yep.
right? So, and then you see everybody making tons of money, and then, yeah, you totally feel FOMO.
Yeah, that Bedard Young Guns will be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week
Oh,
when
yeah.
it comes out.
Oh, yeah.
For years.
Buying singles on release day. That's a big one we talked
Mhm.
about. Overcommitting to a prospect. This is awesome. This person says, looking at you, Anthony Mantha. Love that. Storing cards in value binders. Yeah, that's probably not the best idea. Spending too much money. We've talked about that in
Yeah.
our 101 on healthy collecting habits. Buy cards too fast and spend too much. I've been guilty of that at times. Buying high pop cards. Been guilty of that. I always check the population count now before I buy
Yep.
a card.
Yep.
100% of the time. And I did not. That's something I just started doing in the last few months, but I won't let myself buy a card unless I don't. Confusing clear cut young guns with acetate young guns. Yeah, I would hate to spend $2,000 on a raw clear cut. That
Yep.
would be bad. Chasing shiny new toys kind of fits the theme, what we talked about. Buying sealed product instead of desired singles, kind of that theme. Stop buying the hype. Not all rookies will be good. Buying rookies over the hype, chasing the hot rookie, impulse buys, collecting super high end only. Not sure what they mean by that.
I think just the amount of money you're going to spend on
Sure.
high-end cards, you better make sure you have the budget for it. And if you
Yeah.
decide you're going to go the high-end route, don't get yourself in trouble by spending way too much than you can.
Ripping a bunch instead of buying the singles of what they really
Yep.
want. Chasing middle tier prospects. Not sticking with your budget when you see something you like. So I mean, there's pretty common themes
Yep.
there that I think we addressed in our mistakes. And so yeah, I guess those are what we think are the 5 most common mistakes hockey collectors make. Hopefully, you guys have found this discussion useful. And if you guys have any additional thoughts too, we'd love to hear from you. Please message us on our socials. Any closing thoughts you have, Troy?
No, it's a great topic. I love going through it. I liked seeing all the responses from our listeners in Discord and Instagram because it kind of just relates. You're not the only one that has these issues. This is hobby-wide issues. A lot of people go through this. And
It's
the more
nice
you
not
kn-
to think
yeah.
that you're the only idiot in the hobby.
Well, yeah, and the more you talk about it, the more you think about it, hey, the better we get as collectors.
Okay, we got to make a mention for our partner and sponsor, Slab Sharks. Thank them again for their support of our show. There's still time to get your bids in on a number of incredible hockey cards they have in this week's Slab Sharks eBay auction. This is a really good one. Troy, you mentioned in our Gordie Howe segment, there's a Parkhurst Gordie Howe rookie, I think a PSA 3. There's some other Parkies, like I think a Rocket Richard and some other really, really nice vintage cards as well as
Yeah.
modern cards. So go ahead and Google Slab Sharks eBay or go to slabsharks.com for a link to the auction. We did preview a bunch of them on our last show, as I mentioned. If you are listening to this and the auction's over, no worries. Every time an auction ends, a new one begins. So there's always good hockey cards in the auction. And if you happen to be a Canadian hockey card collector, which I think is like saying if you just happen to be Canadian, right? Pretty much.
Yeah.
And you're thinking about selling some of your cards, picking up some quick cash, we, as in Troy and I, would recommend checking out Slab Sharks eBay consignment services. They're a dream because they make it very easy to sell your cards on eBay. They do all the work. They take the photos. They list the cards. They answer the buyer questions. They hunt down payment. They ship the cards to both the US and Canada, by the way. And they handle any of the post auction issues that the buyer might have. All you got to do is sit back and get paid. Troy, I need a job where I just sit back and get paid. Sounds good to me. So for complete consignment information, including payout rates, and to get started, head to slabsharks.com. Happy news, Troy.
Hobby news.
We have a new cover athlete for EA NHL 24. So your guy, Cale Makar, named the cover athlete. Kind of a cool image there.
Yeah.
Love the spray there, and very good image that EA did. So I went back and looked, Troy, at all the EA cover athletes going back to 1991. And since they started featuring a single player, so over like the first 3 or 4 years of the game, they had
Yep.
multiple players
Yep.
on the cover, I guess, of the game. Makar is just the fourth defenseman to get that cover athlete treatment. Any guesses, if you haven't read ahead, who the other three?
I already read ahead, but I knew one of them. I knew PK Subban was definitely one of them. I remember that one because it's more
Yeah, he was
recent.
2019. And then in 2009, Dion Phaneuf, which is kind of the more interesting. I mean, he's a great player,
Yeah.
but surprised me a little bit. And then Chris Pronger was the first one in 2000. So it's a pretty big deal, of course, to be named the cover athlete. Gives you a lot of credibility with the kids these days. I wonder, though, does it have the same impact that it did? Because very few people actually like go to Best Buy or Target or Walmart and
Yep.
buy the game. It's mostly downloaded now,
Yeah, you're
right?
still down. I thought about this, but I guess the image, right, that you download is
Sure.
still the main image. So I guess, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of sad. I just was at Target the other day looking in the video game section. Physical copies are just going the way of a dinosaur. It's all going to be digital pretty soon.
Mhm. Maybe our guy Kirill Throw could get this honor. Wouldn't that be awesome to have a wild player? I don't think it'll ever happen,
I just
but
wild and Russian, I think, is a bad mix right now.
sure. Okay, I got to mention this too. And we got to give all the credit in the world on this. We're going to show a picture. It goes to the Full Send Hockey on Instagram. Go follow them. They proposed an alternate cover athlete for NHL 24. I love this, Troy. This is one of the best photos I've ever seen. I'm on board 100%. It's basically Phil Kessel.
Yep.
All looks like 280 pounds of him with ripped like biker shorts and his gut hanging out. Looks like a dip in his mouth sitting in
Yep.
the locker room. It's amazing.
It is.
Don't you think they would actually sell more games if this was the
I want this poster, but yeah, they would definitely. They probably. I don't know. They probably would because it's a sweet cover. I love Kessel, man. It's amazing. Everyone rips on him, kind of his shape, but he owns it. He's
yeah.
hockey shape. The guy can do things on a hockey rink that way more fitter people can't. It's just amazing.
So Cale Makar is your NHL 24 EA cover athlete. We got to check in on our Bedard redemption bonanza, Troy.
Yep.
It looks like the number one draft pick redemptions from 2023-24 Upper Deck are starting to come back down to earth a little bit. We reported the first sale at $931 US. It had peaked then to 1,045 on August 11th, but last time I checked, which was earlier today, I think,
Yeah.
there have been 3 sales since, not as high, but still very healthy for MVP. $746 US. All these are all on eBay. Fixed price August 13th. Then there's the best offer, 705. And then the last one was 500 best offer on August 14th for like a $60, $65 US box. Getting $500 card is pretty good. And, we say all the time, we're not a buy sell advice show, but I'm still in the camp. If you do open a box of MVP and you are lucky enough to get one of these cards,
Yep.
I mean, sell.
Yep. Get rid of it.
Josh's advice.
Yep. Agree.
Last story in hobby news, Troy, is the Boston exodus continues. We have David Krejci retiring. So on the heels of Patrice Bergeron's retirement, Krejci has decided to hang up the skates and call it a career. Krejci played in all or parts of 16 NHL seasons with the Bruins. In 1,032 games played, he scored 231 goals, added 555 assists for 786 points. That's a .22 goal per game and .76 point per game. That puts, Troy, the Bruins another center down. So they've lost both their top 6 centers with Bergeron as well. And then when you take a look at the cumulative losses that Boston has had this offseason, no Bergeron, Krejci out, Taylor Hall traded, Tyler Bertuzzi signs with Maple Leafs, Nick Foligno is gone. So I added up those, 5 guys? That's 73 goals and 192 points that are no longer on the roster. Might be kind of tough to make up next year, huh?
Yeah, we'll see how they do. I don't think a President's Trophy is in the mix yet or again.
Well, it's funny you say that. So when you were on the boat and Coach Cole filled in, we did a little 20 rapid fire questions, and I was trying to ask him in the Eastern Conference kind of who's in, who's out. And as one of my assumptive locks for the playoffs, I had put the Bruins, and honestly, I hadn't thought about it much, and he challenged that. He's like,
Yeah.
that they actually might not make the playoffs, and it kind of caught me off guard. But the more I think about it, that is a lot of production to replace. And one of the things that stuck with me is so legendary Wild GM and hockey legend Lou Nanne, who comes on the radio in Minnesota all the time to talk about the Wild. He was the GM of the North Stars for a time. I heard him once say in an interview that when he was the GM, he would, and I can't remember what it was something like, well, the team that wins the division is going to score 250 goals. So he would look at his roster and kind of say, where are these 250 goals going to come from?
Yeah.
And build his team that way. So I'll go back to there's 73 goals down and 192 points down. And so I guess that's the big task for Boston is just, again, to try to figure out how they make up that production. But could you see them actually not making the playoffs next year?
I think they're going to make the playoffs, but if they don't, I guess I could see it with all the production they're losing. But I have faith in Swayman, I guess, and Linus Allmark.
Mark. Yeah. Last note on Krejci, too, is he's a 2007 Young Guns. His PSA 10 popped 31, which is crazy. I couldn't even find a picture of the PSA 10. Last sold for 123 US in November 2022. So not a lot of them there. I think he's one of these guys that was a really good player for the team, but doesn't have mass hobby appeal at 0.22 goals per game.
Yeah.
Kind of makes sense.
Yep.
And then last story in hobby news, very sad, coming from the Maple Leafs. Their 2020 15th overall pick, Rodion Amirov, I think, succumbed to brain cancer, Troy, at just 21 years old. Amirov had been playing in the KHL, was injured during the 2021-22 season, and while he was recovering, started to have unrelated symptoms that was diagnosed as a brain tumor. And one of the things is reading a couple articles about him over the last few days to a person, everyone in the Maple Leafs organization marveled at his positivity and courage that he demonstrated during his fight with the disease. I did look up just two out of curiosity. There's a couple of KHL cards, but unfortunately, Amirov was never able to resume his career or get over to North America where he would have had an NHL card produced for him. So 15th overall pick in 2020. Very sadly dies. Rest in peace. Okay, we're going to move on to our PWCC Weekly Hockey Preview. PWCC, of course, is a Gongshow partner and sponsor. Many thanks to them for their continued support of our show. Just a reminder, Troy, there is still time to get your bids in for the August premiere auction where there's 3 huge Future Watch autos, all PSA 10s, a Crosby, Ovechkin, McDavid. Does not get any bigger than that.
Yep.
Extended bidding begins on the evening of August 24th. You can head to pwccmarketplace.com to look at the cards and place your bids. The current PWCC weekly auction, of course, ends this Sunday. You can bid on all these cards, again, on pwccmarketplace.com. Jeremy Lee and I will be covering all the hockey cards closing in the auction on Sunday night on Jeremy Lee's Sports Cards Live YouTube channel, starting at 8:30 Central Time. We hope to see you all in the chat. Last auction, Jeremy ended up buying the biggest card in the whole auction right on the show. It's kind of fun. We had a good time with that. But like we always do, Troy and I pick out our favorite cards from this week's auction, both vintage and modern. You ready to dig in, Troy? Okay. First card is a vintage one. It's a 1975 Topps Bobby Orr, number 100, PSA 9, Pop 94. So, and then there's 11 PSA 10s. So 11 graded higher. Okay, Troy, I'm going to admit, I picked this card strictly on the photo of Bobby Orr. By the time we get to 1975 cards, gone is the young Orr with the butch haircut that we're so used to in his 1966 Topps rookie. And it's replaced by a very poofy mid-70s Coit. How do you like that for
He does doesn't look an awesome flow.
Yeah, I love this image. So Orr was coming off a pretty incredible 1974-75 where he scored 46 goals, 89 assists for 135 points, still in Boston, of course, but his career basically stopped at that point. 1975-76, Troy, would be Orr's last season in Boston. He'd only played 10 games because of his left knee issues that ultimately ended his career early.
Yeah.
After the season that this card, so this is his last Bruins card, he'd go on to sign with the Blackhawks for 1976-77. So I think if you're a Bruins fan or collecting the player run, to have his last Boston Bruins card would be kind of a cool thing and probably something you would want in your collection. There is, of course, an OPG cousin to this tops, which will have a little bit more desirability, I guess, and valued. But I don't know. I become more and more agnostic, where I just like the card, and I
Yeah.
don't care. I don't. At heart, I'm an OPG snob, but I think I can get over it. According to Card Ladder sales history, there's been 59 total sales of 1975 Topps Bobby Orr PSA 9. Highest sale to date was $528 in July 2022. Last sale was on July 9th of this year, where it sold for $292 US. I mean, think about that. A PSA 9 1975 Bobby Orr, you can get right around for $300.
Yeah.
Going back to that whole like rookie discussion and chasing potential.
Yeah.
Pretty incredible card. Do you like this card?
I do like it. I like the picture. I wish that other guy wasn't in it, but I do like the card. Looks great. I like how he's got the nice flow. No helmet. Looks like Bobby Orr. I can tell it's Bobby Orr. I like that. It's got the 4 in it.
I know that the depth perception is off, but I kind of feel like he's like got his stick in the guy's gut, and he just like gave him a little love tap in the tummy sticks, or whatever they call it. Okay, you got the next one.
All right. Current bet on that one, $54 US.
Oh wow, huge money.
All right. 1970 OPG. Since we're doing the Gordie Howe episode, why not have a Gordie Howe card? It's number 29, PSA 9 with the PWCC A rating, so that's the eye appeal rating in the top 30%. I'll bring up a picture if you're watching on YouTube. So again, we had to talk about Gordie Howe, so we're gonna have a Gordie Howe card in this segment. So this is a 1970 OPG base set card, and I believe this would be his last OPG base set card with the Detroit Red Wings during his playing career. So kind of like the Bobby Orr, this is Gordie Howe's last OPG card during his playing career. The next year, OPG did come out with like a special commemorative card, and then obviously other cards come out all the time after players retired. Topps, however, did create a 71-72 card with Howe on it that was just like a normal player card. Being a 1970 OPG, we have our favorite funky white lights or circles or whatever we're calling those things. Again, I think I know what they were going for. It's just kind of odd looking at times. But I do like these cards because it's very distinct. I know exactly what I'm looking at when I see it. I like the fact that in this card, we got Howe smiling. I think it goes against what you think about him being a tough guy on the ice or the fighting or the Bobby or the Gordie Howe hat trick. But I actually like that he's smiling in this card. And I like that it's kind of the end of the career. If you're doing the player run with the Red Wings, this is the last OPG during his playing career.
So you would have been about 41 there, right? Going off of
yeah, it would have been 40, somewhere in there, early 40s.
Really old. I mean, he looks like he's like in his
he was one of those guys that looked like he grayed early.
Yeah.
All right, the card looks very nice. You zoom in, the color, the corners look really nice when you zoom in. The edges look good. Obviously, again, it is a PSA 9 with that eye appeal rating, but it does look really nice when you zoom in on it. It's a really good card, really good looking card of a legendary player. So the PSA 9 pop of this card is 32 with only one PSA 10 copy.
Wow.
So this is probably the highest you're going to find. Last sale I could find for the PSA 9 version was on August 5th of this year via Leland's for $642 US. Highest sale ever I could find on this card was April 22nd of 2022 for $855 US via the PWCC Vault. Current bid right now is $180 US.
Go back to our discussion on false scarcity and all the numbered parallels for a mid-career like a Draisaitl or McDavid or Matthews, even at the time. So this is essentially at PSA 9 out of 32.
Yeah.
And with the exception of one other PSA 10, this is it.
Yep.
For the whole year in Gordie Howe. And so again, it's just funny how the value dispersity is not equitable between vintage and modern.
Yep. Agreed.
There's no other sets or options. This was your choice.
Yep.
Back in back in 1970. Real cool card. Okay, next one in vintage is a little bit of a stretch, but we do it all the time. So we're calling the 1997 Pinnacle Totally Certified Wayne Gretzky Platinum Mirror Gold out of 30 PSA 8 as vintage. Works for me. There's just so many great cards from this era that I really appreciate most about these late 90s inserts for Gretzky is that they're still within his
Yep.
playing career. So we
Yep.
get like a little more of the modern card technology, but he's, we're well into the turtleneck era.
Yep.
I get it, it's with the Rangers, but it's still during his playing career. And we mentioned earlier in last week's PWCC Weekly, we had an amazing 1998 Bauman's Best Atomic Refractor. And now having this card in back-to-back auctions, I think is really cool because a lot of 90s hockey aficionados will argue that these are the two best cards from the whole, or two of the top five or whatever from the whole decade. And so I just think it's really neat again to have them back-to-back in the PWCC Weekly. So what's interesting too about when you look at the checklist for 1997 Pinnacle Totally Certified Hockey, there's a pretty big Platinum Mirror Gold checklist. There's 130 cards on that checklist. The first 30 were out of 25, and then the last 100 were out of 30. You don't really see that today on these like special inserts. It'll be usually 20 or 30 cards tops, not 130. The Gretzky is number 100 on that checklist. So again, it's out of 30. So 6 of the 30 have been graded by PSA. There's 2 PSA 9s, 2 PSA 8s, which this is one of, a PSA 7, and a PSA 6. So there's only 2 graded higher than the PSA 8 copy as well. You a fan of this card?
Big fan. I think it looks fantastic. Especially, I bet it even looks better in person. But I love like the goldish tint around him.
Oh, yeah.
I think it looks really nice.
Really pops in person. So, Troy, the top sale and only sale for 1997 Pinnacle Totally Certified Wayne Gretzky PSA 8 Platinum Mirror Gold was $6,300 US. That's a big money card by Heritage in July 2022. One note, though, is that card did have the peel intact. So that was like with coating, as it'll say on the label. And the one in the auction this week is peeled. So I got a big life question for you, Troy. Are you a peel or no peel guy? Take your time, answer correctly.
I am a no peel guy. I don't want
I think I'm no peel too.
I think it looks ridiculous.
Okay. Current bid, right? $1,125.
Yep, $1,125.
Okay, we're going to move on to modern. And first card we want to talk about is a 2020 Upper Deck Premier Tim Stützle Acetate Gold RPA at a 15 PSA 8. I've said this a bunch, but as far as young prospects go, Stützle is probably my guy, and it's impossible. So it was impossible for me to pass this card up. It's a really, really nice card too, just from the look and feel. Maybe one of the favorite RPAs I've seen from Stützle. It's horizontal. The patch is awesome. 3-color. And I don't really know. Somebody's got to explain the whole concept of like breaks in a patch. I think I get it, but maybe I don't. So yeah, message me and kind of how that goes. But would there be like 7 breaks that you just kind of count like how many seams or?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, there's a lot going on with the patch, which makes it really interesting too. The auto is great on the RPA. Of course, he's German and he has umlauts over the U in his name, and he included him on the auto. I'm a big umlaut fan, so yeah, I'm weird. I get it. People might have noticed too that anytime we put his name in like print on a social media post or on our website, I do include the umlauts 100% of the time. And just if anyone wants to know, because I took the time to learn this, Alt plus 0252 is the Windows shortcut for an umlaut U. So yeah, are you impressed by me, Troy?
I am very impressed. You're going to have to start a Windows shortcut podcast now.
Oh yeah, big audience potential there. Stützle, of course, the 21-year-old, potentially budding superstar for the Ottawa Senators. He's increased his production in each of his 3 NHL seasons, culminating with 39 goals, 51 assists for 90 points last season, all while just 20 years old, Troy. His team is on the come up, and so here could be definitely a young star on the rise. And I don't know, might be a decent candidate. We'll have to find out for later on in the next month if he's one of our 2023-24 breakout candidates. It's kind of interesting too. I was chatting on Instagram the other day, and this is one of the amazing things that I could have never imagined with our show,
Yeah.
with the listener from Germany. And we're starting to get a lot, like, other than the US and Canada, Germany is like number 3 with a bullet as far as countries that listen to us, which kind of makes sense because they've got a ton of great young hockey talent that is interesting to follow. And so this is a guy, and it's one guy's opinion, I get that, who has followed both Stützle and Draisaitl. I think he's from Cologne, he said, where Draisaitl's from. And he had a lot of praise for Stützle and thinks that he could match what Draisaitl has done in the NHL, which is obviously incredibly high praise
Yeah.
from that perspective. But I just wanted to share that because this is awesome that we get to talk hockey cards with people in Germany. The only one of these cards to sell at this point was a raw copy, went for $995 US in April 2022. This card is out of, what is it, out of 15. It wasn't the same one, by the way. But thoughts on this card, Troy? If you were a Stützle guy, is this a card you would be interested in?
Oh, I would definitely be interested if I was a Stützle fan. The patch, the auto, the no out of 15. Did I was Stützle one of the guys that changed his autograph? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, he kind of has a not great, like a TS version.
That's right. He does a TS version. So I like that it's the old, if he did change it to that. Now it's like this older version, a little more drawn out with the umlaut. But yeah, I like this card.
All right, you got the next one, buddy.
All right. What we got? Oh, sorry. Current bid on that card, $500 US.
Okay.
All right. Next one, 2021. Upper Deck Young Guns, speckled rainbow foil, Trevor Zegras, PSA 8. I've decided to look at this card because we don't actually talk about the speckled rainbows that much. They're one of those cousins of the of the flagship product that some people might not even know exist. And for those that don't know, rainbow speckled foils are available through Upper Deck's ePack platform. So basically, to get the Zegras speckled rainbow foil Young Guns, you combine 5 individual Zegras Young Guns to get 1 Zegras silver foil Young Guns. Then you need to combine 3 silver foil Zegras Young Guns to get 1 Zegras speckled rainbow foil Young Guns. A lot of words. That was like a tongue twister.
Basically, it takes 15 Young Guns to make 1 speckled rainbow.
Yep. So if you go on ePack site, they'll tell you this stuff in the description and all that. But that's how you get speckled foils originally. That's how they're put into production or to put into the market, is someone somehow traded or converted and got the speckled rainbow foil. So you can acquire this card. You can buy packs, boxes, cases on ePack, or you can also make trades to try and acquire the cards to make your speckled rainbow foil. Sounds like a lot of work to me, Josh. So I'm just going to go buy it when it becomes available on eBay or Comsty or whatever platform. So, Josh, do you like speckled rainbows?
This is a tough question.
I know.
I don't know.
Have you ever seen one in person?
Yeah, I like the cards. I guess I don't know. And this is so weird. There's really shouldn't be any distinction, but to me, I think I might prefer cards that just come like magically lucky out of a box versus cards you just spend a whole bunch of money to earn. That's like probably very petty and not fair in all of its sense, but I don't know. I do like the cards though. They are kind of cool looking. And what we talk about all the time is sort of the folly of base Young Gun as an investment. And so this is a much, I think, probably better investment than a base Young Gun. So I can appreciate it. I don't know if it's 100% like my jam.
I'm with you. I do like them. I think they're good looking. I just don't know how they just seem like this weird parallel that's just off in the periphery that maybe not a lot of people know about, but they're definitely a lot rare and they should be worth some money. And they can go for a pretty penny.
Oh yeah. Well, can I say one more thing too? Is that I think too, it's like, because I don't want to come off as being overly negative. To me, it's just different strokes for different folks.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of one of the awesome things about the hobby. And I think one of the things Upper Deck does very well is, to me, the whole ePack platform is very much based on gamification.
Yeah.
And I'm just not as drawn to that as I am to other parts of the hobby. So I think that's maybe what it comes down to.
Good point. All right, the last PSA 10 sale I could find was for 1,225 US dollars on July 15th, 2023. There was a PSA 10. Now, this one isn't, but I just wanted to give it some perspective. There was a PSA 10 sale back in September of 2022 for the Zegras Rainbow Speckle Foil for $2,000 when the card was a pop too. So even speckled rainbows are not immune to the kind of the fear of missing out or the low pop, high price
Yeah.
kind of craze. So crazy money for that. Now the PSA 10 pop is around 23. With all that said, this card's a PSA 8. Definitely should be a lot more affordable. PSA 9s go for around the mid to upper 300s. However, there is a PSA 9 that shows in Terapeak for selling for 975 US dollars on July 13th of this year. That doesn't seem right. Something seems off, or it's sold way too high, or something
Yeah.
fishy's going on. So I'm throwing that out, but I just want to let you know that is out there. That doesn't seem, something seems weird. I couldn't find any PSA 8 sales, which is why I'm giving you the PSA 10s and the 9s. Current bid on this card is 190 US dollars.
Gotcha. Well, too, I think it's important noting and going about like buying and timing is yes, you're 100% right. I've definitely observed shortly after a release goes to EPAC that it'll be so and so Young Gun Speckled Rainbow PSA 10 Pop 1. And
Yeah.
it'll go for a crazy price. Remember, this is a card that, and I think a lot of people do like the whole gamification thing.
Yeah.
They trade on EPAC and they kind of earn their way into the card. So again, I'm not poo
Yep.
pooing that, but if you wanted one, you could just spend whatever it took to get one.
Yeah.
So, okay, last card is a 2019 Upper Deck buybacks, 15 canvas Connor McDavid Young Guns auto out of 10, which is NBA authentic. So, you asked about sort of like the thoughts on like EPAC and like the achievement cards. And one of the things I've observed over the past year or so is collectors do have different opinions on buybacks too, which is something I actually kind of want to understand a little bit better because I don't know if my opinion is really settled one way or the other. Do you have an opinion on buybacks? Do you like them, not like them?
I I don't know. I get them. I appreciate them. What was interesting to me on this card, I should have pulled up a picture, is that obviously it's a buyback of a 2015 canvas, but the back is different. So they put the back of whatever the buyback was. It says 1920 buyback, and I don't know if they like put a sticker on it or how
It's
they
not a
did.
sticker, it's a different card. So I learned this from Jeremy Lee
Okay, yeah. How do they
because
do
we
that?
had this issue in one of the PWCC before because
Yeah,
basically there's that's a little card that tells the collector it's an authentic autograph.
I get that. Okay,
Yeah.
because
So,
yeah, if you
so
didn't have that, it'd probably be pretty easy to fake this.
yes, right.
Yeah,
And I think that's what kind of makes this card interesting is
yeah,
that we talk all the time. Well, how do you take a regular Young Guns to make it more special? Well, this is numbered out of 10. It's
yeah.
hand number too, which I love. And it actually, I think the auto actually looks nice. Sometimes autos on cards that aren't intended to have autos don't work. But for me, I don't mind this one. I also kind of looked at the card really closely, and the card looks like in pretty good shape. Not a big surprise because of all the cards Upper Deck produces, Canvas are usually the ones that it's probably just the paper that they use that tend to be in general in really good shape just to begin with. So yeah, through my novice eyes, I'll say that the condition is pretty good. And I don't know, like if you're a McDavid guy for the long haul and you think he's going to win some cups and you don't pay an insane amount of money for this card, it's like, man, out of 10 Young Guns canvas autoed, and because it's a buyback, it's one of the, I guess, only like official canvas autos that would be, you could, of course, got him to sign one of
Yes.
these in person
Yep.
or something like that, but it does kind of make it official from an Upper Deck standpoint. I was only able to find 2 sales for this card, which isn't totally surprising, of course, since
Yeah.
there's 10. They were both in the same card, ironically. So it's card 10 out of 10. It first sold raw, Troy, in February 2020 for 2,550 US dollars. Then someone had it graded. It came a BGS 9.510, and it sold for
Wow.
$10,010 in January of 2022.
Wow.
So what's that? Just 1 month shy, 2 years later, goes from 2,500 bucks to 10 grand. Crazy.
That's crazy.
You got the current bid.
$1,175 US.
Awesome. Well, new product releases. This is going to be one of the weirder new
Oh
product
boy.
new product
Oh
releases.
boy.
There's some stuff happening here. First of all, we got to mention 2021-22 Stature is out. It came out today. We're recording this on Wednesday. We went and bought a box at our local LCS like we do for our videos. I was really excited because they opened a fresh case. They said, Josh, pick your box. Amazing. Hockey gods, speak well, shine upon us. And I don't think I'm exaggerating, Troy, and you know this because I've shared with you,
Yeah.
it could be in the running for the worst box of hockey cards in the history of the hobby. It's definitely the worst box in my lifetime. No shade or anything to Upper Deck. That's again part of buying. Sometimes, and I think we'll mention later personal pickups. I had an amazing run a day with boxes. This one was bad, and since the video will be up today, I'm sure I'm just going to go ahead and spill the beans because it's just
Yeah.
fun to. I got to make something out of this box, right? So we had 4 rookies in the box. 2021-22 Stature, Connor Bedard, Brett Leeson, whoever that is, Grigory Denisenko, who is the Ryan O'Reilly of 2021 rookies. He's in every box I get. And I was kind of curious too, because this happened to me with him recently where have you guys ever had a rookie that you pull so often it makes you actually go look him up and be like, okay, I have like 40 of this guy's cards
Yeah.
that I never asked for. And is there any chance he's actually going to be a good player? So yeah, I did that with him. And then the other rookie was our golden gopher, Riley Tufte, Troy. So Connor Dewar, Brett Leeson, Grigory Denisenko, Riley Tufte.
Nice.
That's not good. But and then if anyone's wondering on Denisenko, he's played 18 games so far for the Panthers, 0 goals, 3 assists. So yeah.
All right, it's
Well,
gotta get better. Gotta get better with the auto, right?
we're going to be saved by the auto. Victor Soderstrom, nice player.
Jeez.
I'm sure he's a great guy, but not the best non-rookie auto to get. So that didn't help. We did have a numbered base, Vincent Lecavier, again, nice guy, nice player. And then our 2 base cards were Tomas Hertl and Bernie Nichols. So I haven't done the calculations yet, but out of a $130 box, we're going to be dang lucky to have $20 for the cards. Yeah, that's just what happens. That being said, though, and I've got the cards here, I really like the cards. I don't like the players that came in our box, but like we said often, and I think what's attracted you a lot to the Stature set is it's kind of got that steampunk. It's got a little bit of an old-fashioned feel, but a lot of like rainbow foiling on it. And one of the things that I noticed right out of the gate, and listen, I've 8 cards. I haven't seen all the different inserts and anything like that. Is what was very common in the 2020 set were a lot of surface scratches. It was really hard to open a box and not have like those protege cards were often had surface scratches, and I
Yeah.
didn't see any of them. As far as like the rookie insert, there's a rookie excellence card that I really like the background pattern too. I'm trying to not have a lot of shine on the. Here's my Denisenko out of
Nice.
15, or our Denisenko out of 15. But so yeah, overall, I was impressed with the cards. Again, it's a 1-pack box, so you get 8 cards, and it's going to be really good or really bad. I have seen a bunch of sick RPAs, Troy, that have been
Yeah.
floating around Instagram.
Yep.
Yeah, I think I saw like a Mo Sider out of 6, and I will say that patch autos and Stature look pretty awesome.
Yeah, they're usually pretty good.
Big fan of those. You got to remember though, we talked about last show, there's no Caulfield, Byfield, or Knight autos in this set. And speaking of that, that gets us to kind of the meat of our new product releases today. So Upper Deck is doing a bit of, I don't know what to call it. Is it a make good? Is that a good way to put it, do you think? On the sort of missing or not included autos from both Stature and Credential, as they announced a rookie auto bonus program for
Yep.
each set today. So we're going to start with stay with Stature first. So get ready for people scratching their head at high Nick Suzuki sales on eBay, because if you pull a Nick Suzuki card, which is card number 2 from the set, either his base photo variant number to 99, base set photo variant green parallel to 66, or base set photo variant number to 33, you'll get one stature bonus card. And so there's a whole bunch of parallels with that. Uh, to me, the connection is, well, Suzuki plays on the Canadians. There's no Caulfield cards. Caulfield is the biggest rookie for the set. So, yeah, I'm going to be curious to see how many base set or, what would have been very cheap Suzuki cards now all of a sudden go for money. So, Troy, you'll find this funny. I was on eBay a little bit ago and looking at like break spots. Before this was announced, a case break for Suzuki went for like $4.20. And then I saw another one where the auction at 2 hours left was at $76.
Wow. Well, it makes sense. At least, I mean, I guess they're not the straight up base cards, right? They got to be some kind of variant,
Yeah.
like the number to 90, number 66, number 33. So it's kind of limited there. But yeah, it makes sense why they would go super high now.
Then we move on to 2021-22 credentials, and we got to start with a little bit of a mea culpa. Troy, if you weren't sick and we had more time, we may have had a press conference today. We haven't done one of those. And I don't know how we would do that on video. So that would be another thing to figure out. But yeah, so I was very, very excited for the set, of course. Huge fan of the debut ticket access autos. And of course, 2021 is a pretty good hobby rookie class.
Yep.
So when the checklist came out, we assumed, and Troy, what happens when you assume? Nothing good, right?
Nothing good.
We all know the saying that we're not going to say. And we basically assumed that all the key rookies would be in the set because, well, why wouldn't they be? And again, very important because, in my opinion, that debut ticket access auto is kind of the key card in the set. It's sort of like the poor man's Future Watch auto, right? You're buying credentials
Yep.
because it's very similar to contenders, and you got that rookie ticket auto and contenders, and the cards are real shiny and they look cool with the autos and they're hard signed. Well, we didn't check the checklist good enough. We assumed, and here's some guys missing from the 2021 class there, like Caulfield, Trevor Zegras, Lucas Raymond, Quentin Byfield, just to name a few. So that's not good. That's kind of on us. And, we should have noticed that to inform everyone a little bit. And then, too, Troy, when you look at the 2020-21 updates, there's no Kaprizov or Sorokin either, which I
Yep.
guess kind of makes sense to me given the whole
Yeah.
cup kerfuffle there.
Yep.
So I asked, last show we talked about, okay, with Caulfield and Byfield and Knight missing from Stature, would you have held the product if you were running Upper Deck? And we kind of both agreed we would just release it because you have 2022 Stature coming out soon and you don't want to be delayed. But man, when it comes to credentials and it's a 2021 release and there's no Caulfield and Zegras, especially, and then Raymond, who's another big one, that's like, we can argue I think you would say for 2021, Caulfield, Zegras, Raymond, Sider, and Swayman are the top two, I think, are not debatable, Caulfield and Zegras. And then you can slot, right, probably Sider next, and then depending on the whoever between Raymond and Swayman. So to have 3 of the 5 not in the set, to me, is really tough. And I'm thinking I would not have released it. What do you think?
I am definitely with you. I think it was already delayed. Like this was a 2 years since the last release, right?
Something like
And
that.
you're missing the debut ticket autos or of the biggest guys. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I think I would have held it and see what I could have done to maybe get those cards in before the set was released.
I think we do have to acknowledge too. It's easiest for us to have that opinion because we also
Yep.
don't have all the information. There may be some extenuating circumstances that we don't know about, which kind of maybe forced Upper Deck's hands. So I'm not trying to be judgmental when I say that. It's just really tough to have a set, and gosh, so disappointing, especially at 150 bucks a box too. Oh man, where honestly, like, and then going back to the update too, not having Kaprizov. I mean, there's so many key guys that are missing. It's unfortunate in
Yeah,
my
and
mind. And
I was gonna say I still don't get, and we talked about this, that the sell sheet had the Zegras debut ticket access autograph on it. They
yeah,
showed a picture of it. Now Beckett still shows it on the checklist. Cardboard Connection, I think, actually removed that picture.
really
So
smart of them
yeah.
to do that. So they've included credentials in that rookie auto bonus program as well. It's a little different though. So collectors who collect and redeem the first 22 cards of the orange parallel version of the base set, so cards 1 through 22 that are each serially numbered to 1 out of 149, will receive one credentials bonus card. So it's a debut ticket access auto. It doesn't say who the player is. This to me feels like it's not like with Stature, you get a Suzuki, you exchange it for a different card. You'd have to do some work to get all 22 of the orange parallels. It almost feels like a bounty program to me. But, and again, everyone's going to have opinions whether it's enough, whether the set should have been released. But, you can definitely say that Upper Deck is acknowledging the fact that it's not ideal that these sets were released, missing some key player autos, and is trying to do something at least to, I don't know, like I use the term make good. I don't know
Yeah,
how to describe it.
there's never a answer that will be 100% perfect. We've seen already the replies on social media saying, "Well, why don't you just include them as a stature insert on stature?" and a bunch of negative stuff. And I get it. You can have an opinion on it. I do think Upper Deck is trying. They heard the feedback. They're trying to do something. However, not everyone will be happy, and that's how it goes.
Well, I wonder too if this could be an issue that goes bigger a little bit than Upper Deck too, Troy, because, and I want to say for the record too, I did not ask them about credentials. I will. We hadn't realized that,
Yeah,
again, we assumed, which wasn't great on our part. But if it's as simple as the athletes didn't return the cards, again, like we talked about last week, you can't like put a gun to their head and make them send their cards in. So maybe that this is a broader discussion that has to take place between Upper Deck, the NHL, and the NHLPA to, because I would think if the issue is athletes returning cards, the NHLPA is really the only stakeholder in this that could really put pressure on
yeah,
them in a reasonable way to do that, to say, come on, dudes, you've agreed to do this. You've contracted to, because a little bit has to be on the athletes too. And Upper
yeah.
Deck's going to get all the blame for it, and who knows? Maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't. I don't maybe understand, but it's their name on the box, so that's what's going to happen. But I do understand and appreciate the point. If Cole Caulfield isn't sending his cards back, what can they do about it? I'm sure that
Yeah.
they have reminded his representatives often that needs to happen.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we did see, I don't know who it was. Was it Leaf maybe? Someone I remember suing an athlete for not
Yeah.
giving them autographs in time. I think Upper Deck again is trying to do the right thing where I will take them to kind of hold their feet to the fire. Is kind of I still talk about that image that's on the sell sheet. I
Yeah.
know they say they give the wording on there that it's subject to change, but to me that just seems odd that the debut ticket access. So maybe they got some of them back and not all of them. I don't know.
And I don't know. Maybe again, these will be an update. So, geez, 2022 credentials could be like super juiced,
Yeah.
right? But I don't know. Is there going to be damage done? Are people how much are people going to be excited to buy it based on this experience? So it's
Yeah.
just kind of a not ideal situation that will be interesting to see how it plays
Yep.
out. Okay, as you teased at the top of the show, personal pickups is back. Really excited about that. So I did a couple trades this week on my card post, and I'm very excited about the cards that I picked up. One trade was for us for one of our cards in our pack opening videos. So the first trade was we had a Noah Dobson debut ticket from Credentials that we opened in our box, and then another card we opened in one of our boxes, a Matty Beniers acetate rookie from Artifacts, and we traded that for a 2007 OPG Premier Trio Autos out of 35 that has Ray Bork, Al McInnes and Larry Robinson. And remember when we were talking about mistakes and chasing rookies, and I was actually mindful of that in this, where I thought, I like Matty Beniers. I like that acetate
Mm-hmm.
card from Artifacts was cool. I was so on Noah Dobson. I just don't follow the Islanders that closely. But I'm like, here's an instance where you have Ray Bork auto along with two other Hall of Fame defensemen out of 35. It's a pretty cool looking card. Again, I tried not to. There's that part of you that, well, what if Beniers at acetate is worth $10,000 someday? Sometimes it's just good to take the win in this case, and who knows? And actually, I hope the guy that I traded with that the Matty Beniers is worth that at some point, and we both win because I'm really happy to get a awesome card with three NHL defensemen, and I guess as part of any good trade, you have to sacrifice a little upside of what Beniers' potential could be, and so in this case, we did that. But yeah, uh, you happy with this trade that we made as well, Troy?
Definitely. I love it. 3 Hall of Famers. I like it.
Then the next one is I was able to get my first. This is a trade I did on my card post. 1998 Bowman's Best Atomic Refractor. I traded for Joe Thornton, PSA 9. Pop 3. There's none graded higher. It's my first Atomic Refractor. I like Joe Thornton. I'm not a big Joe Thornton mega collector. I was more excited to have a really good player of my first Atomic Refractor. And given that there's none graded higher, I'm just really, I love these cards. And yeah, so and I traded like some like baseball cards that I had. I think a couple hockey cards, so I had to make a whole bunch of stuff work.
Yeah.
But if you're not using my card post, it's awesome, especially for trading. It's good for buying and selling too. I love it. I think I traded 3 cards for this one on the platform. It makes it super seamless. I was not the trading type ever really. I was more just like, oh, I'm just going to buy stuff and sell stuff. And they have got me hooked on this whole trading thing. So
Yep.
go to mycardpost.com. They do sponsor our show. Want to mention that you can, if you want to buy, it's free. If you want to sell or trade or do trade plus cash or multiple cash offers, it starts at like $9 a month. And the biggest thing there too with them is that you don't pay. There's no platform like seller fees. So like where eBay or something like that charges you 13%. There's nothing on MCP. So I'm in for MCP to the moon. And then just a plug, right? We had our horrible Stature box. Great cards, just bad box. And we're doing a pack series now on 2022-23 trilogy that Troy, this is a box I bought, pulled the biggest card of my life in it. So I'm just going to tease that a little bit.
Yep.
Not life-changing, but it's the best card I've ever pulled.
It's a big card. I mean, it's a sweet card.
Stay tuned for that. Well, dude, you made it.
I made it. Hopefully I muted all my sniffles and coughs at the right time. I apologize if any of those got through.
Yeah, you toughed it out, man. So I really appreciate you doing that. If you like the episode, please leave a rating review on Apple, Spotify, or whatever podcast app you listen to us on. If you love the show, you want to support us, chat with us every day in the Hockey Cards Gongshow Discord server, please consider a $5 a month donation. Join our out of $1.99 support level tier on Patreon, or there's other options as well if you want to contribute a little bit more. The link is in the show description within our Instagram profile and our link tree. You can search for Hockey Cards Gongshow on the Patreon website, Patreon, or go to hockeycardsgongshow.com, and there is a link there. Hey, follow us on social media. Another shameless plug to subscribe to us on YouTube. We're also on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. And Troy, the Hockey Cards Gong Show podcast is a production of Dollar Box Ventures, LLC. We'll see you all on Monday. Have an awesome weekend.